Okay, we're going to tackle, and is this coming through as it should?
I'm going to get a little closer. A
little closer? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to tackle just one aspect of Article 2. If you want to open your constitutions to page 9, you will be where Article 2 begins. And Section 1 begins with the executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details of how they elected them at that time, because what you really need to know is why they did what we now call the Electoral College. Think back to the time of the founding of this republic and realize that not only no cell phones, but no television, no radio, no fast transportation. There was walk or horse or ox cart or something like that, covered wagon, but nothing really fast. So even the slim eastern seaboard that most of you are familiar with was a big territory. It was a lot of ground to cover. So nobody knew very many people that well. They became familiar with George Washington during the Revolution and could read about or articles by people, but they were in no position to do the kind of campaigning or see the kind of campaigning that goes on nowadays. So what the founders in their wisdom thought of was, how about if we let people put themselves up for election to be electors, and if that individual is somebody you respect and agree with, somebody who says the things you want to hear, somebody who will be true to the country, and they weren't involved with parties in the beginning. That's a later problem for this country. Anyway, you could vote for one of these men. They were always men at that time. You could vote for them according to the rules in your particular state, and that might have varied from state to state. But the important thing was that each state had representation by local people of as many people as they were entitled to in Congress. So every state had how many senators?
How many?
Come on, it's not that hard. 2 senators. Okay, so 13 states, 2 senators each. So you got 26 people representing you for the Senate. They are not the senators. They are not the same people, but they're equivalent numbers. Then the states might have varying numbers of representatives. A very small state might have just 1, and a larger state might have 6 or 8 or whatever. And they detailed what they would have for the first election. But the point was that the states were represented fairly and by size, and it had nothing to do with party in the very beginning. It's been amended several times, and worse than that, it's been that system, that electoral college, has been co-opted by political parties, and not all political parties are allowed to participate in many states. In Michigan, if statewide there's, like 5 million and one, as opposed to 5 million, they all go to the party of that extra person. that's an exaggeration of what really happens. But anyway, so winner takes all in many of the states. And that's why in a year like this, which is a presidential campaign and election year, there's such a race for the few states that have really a lot of representation. So the Michigan, Pennsylvania, California, New York, whatever, I think there's 5 or 6 of them that actually have enough electoral votes to just kind of swing the country by the tail. So that's a thing that I wanted to get across, because many people say, you know, electoral college, what is that? Or why do we need it? Or whatever. And our needs are not the same as the needs then. We do have the televised accounts and speeches and all that, but we still need the check that it is on what's otherwise a popularity contest. And I think any of you who have been through any kind of popular things understand that popularity is not always the best judge of character or value. So are there any questions specifically about that? And if there are, shout them out loudly enough so Key can hear them and repeat the question, and we'll tackle them. Yes?
To the people who say we should do away with the Electoral College, what should our response be?
What should we respond if someone urges the
Destruction of
destruction of the Electoral College?
that they learn what really goes on, that they understand why it was created. You can research it and find more about it. The changes, the big change to the political parties, I will tell you, came between the first election of Andrew Jackson and the second. And there was this huge movement that's gone on since then. And of course, people who are destructive or want to be destructive of the country want specifically to be destructive of the Electoral College. So your friends and people you might talk to may not feel that way about the country. Now, some people do. Right now, we are living on probably the greatest attack on the idea of loving your country that certainly that I've ever seen. I was born during World War II, so there were certain countries who didn't like us. But as far as the people, they united, as we're supposed to do now before the germ, a virus. But they united because they loved the country and they knew it was good. And even in some of the documentaries about Japanese people living in this country who were put into or born into concentration camps, talked about how they were free, they were well fed and had decent quarters, not what they had given up necessarily, but they knew it would end. They believed that America was good, and they'll speak out for it. You can't say that of survivors or relatives of people who didn't survive, whether in Soviet Russia or currently Red China or Cambodia, where a third of the population was killed by the government. They weren't soldiers or anything, they were just killed. I could say more, I can tell stories, but that's probably not the purpose of this. And any other?
Ms. Harper, one concern I have about the Electoral College and this push to get rid of what is really a beautiful and brilliant system is that if there is popular vote, okay, and there is corruption of vote anywhere, there is essentially corruption everywhere, okay? It's hard, it might be hard to understand, but it might click in later if you're not quite getting it. If there is ballot stuffing or ballot loss or any type of corruption anywhere, and you have 100 million votes here and 100,010,000 votes there, what's going to happen to this country? I believe that if the Electoral College is abolished, that there's no other answer but bloodshed. I really believe that. So it is important to understand this beautiful mechanism where, let's say there's corruption of ballots in North Carolina. Well, you need 270 votes. North Carolina is only 10 or 12 votes, okay? So it's not likely that one presidential candidate is going to win or lose over the other by less than 12 votes. Usually the electoral votes are 15, 20, 70, 90 votes off. So if there is corruption in one state, and even if that's not solved, the president, whoever is elected president, is settled safely. I hope you understand that.
Thank
I
you.
hope I explained that well.
I think you covered your point. Yes, very good. Shall we go on now?
Let's go on, yeah.
Pardon? Oh, hand over here somewhere.
So what you're trying to say is the Electoral College was a compromise between the popular vote, which is danger of mob rule, versus the Electoral College, which is danger of one-man rule. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well,
Can you repeat?
I would say that it wasn't a compromise from popular vote because popular vote was never in the vocabulary. The Founding Fathers never talked about that. That was never their interest. Their concern was having respected citizens who studied the issues well and read the newspapers be locally elected, and that those people would later get together and elect the president through the electoral system.
But it's also a compromise from the total people, because if the people had their way, it would be they're not as educated as citizens as the Electoral College people may be. So it will also lead to trouble, right?
Well, it worked very well when it was used.
Can you repeat the
No,
charge?
I
Okay.
can't repeat it.
All right. Yes, Kath.
I just want to make one little comment here that I think people miss. It's not the people who elect the president, it's the states. The states
Excellent.
elect the president, not the people. Once you understand that, a lot more of this makes sense.
Yeah, that's excellent, because remember that this country was set up as a federation of states who each had their own laws and so on at home, but who joined together in the face of a common enemy. So absolutely right, very important point, and I'm sorry I missed it the first time through. So thank you very much, Mrs. White.
Should we go on to the
More of
test?
this?
Oh, okay.
Oh, the test.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to, or, well, maybe not. The tests were very interesting. This was a departure from the tests that we have used usually. And I have a list by score. And I just want to give you the, let's see where there's a good break point here.
Halfway down is this camper right here. That's the middle camper.
Okay, all right.
Valentine.
So shall I read the names?
Sure.
Okay, so the top scorer, 74, is Evangeline Harrigers. In the 60s, and I won't separate them, but they are in order, David Krutov, Zachary Cotiadis, Gabriela Jimenez, Andrew Affleck, Stephen Motter, Maria Motter. Oh, stop. I'm sorry. Stephen was the last in the 60s. And then yeah, I probably should we should hand these out.
Yeah, let's do it. Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
The people that we've already named should come up and get theirs, because, so Evangeline and David and the rest? Oh, okay. I guess. I'll read the next group while he's doing that. So the 50s, we have Maria Motter, Adrian Pina, Ben Soon, Emily Shurtleff, Sophia Daniels, Stephen Detro, Christina Carter, and Lawrence Godfrey. Now we'll go down to the next group, and this group contains probably the most people having the same score, and that was the middle score of, well, there's 4 people with 42. But ahead of those were Rebecca Krutov, Syra Waniger, Angelica Quintanilla, Franklin Soon, and then the 5 are Titus Valentine, Joseph Yee, Sarah Krutov, Gabriel Quintanilla, and that's the end of the ties. And the remaining people are Elise Nooney, Helena Daniels, Maddie Daniels, Lydia Kimball. Okay, all of those are in the 40s. Then Caden Nooney, Ryan Nooney, Emily Jimenez, Kyla Nooney, Raiden Lovely, Gus Kalis, Brianna Cotiadis. Am I saying that correctly? Oh, all right. Marley Newman, Leo Godfrey, Abby Valentine, Abby, Gavin Nooney, and Chloe Valentine. So there you all are. You all made the effort. And the way we scored, the original questions came out to 88 points. You remember the directions given were very specific about putting your name, first and last name, on each page. And we had the 44 questions, 2 points each is 88, and that left the 12. And if you got 4 points for each time you wrote your name, you had a little boost. You had a 12-point start. So that's a bonus, but it's necessary in a situation where we haven't taught you this history. You're coming in. Anyway, we will be going over those questions as soon as they're all handed out. By the way, on the first page, page 1 of that, in most instances, I guess there's no point here. We have some missing people.
Well, I think these were junior patriots who...
Okay. Some of the people who took the test were junior patriots, and so...
And Constitution!
Go ahead.
Okay. I did want to mention one question where I allowed 2 different answers, especially if there was an indication of knowledge of the confusion. there's the question of, it was worded in a funny way. So something like, what do most Americans call the defining document or the authority of the United States? And of course, most Americans would probably say just the Constitution, but there are some who try to say, oh, they actually lie. They say things like, treaties supersede the Constitution. No, they don't. Treaties made under the authority of the United States is stated broadly because it's not only the treaties that were made under the Constitution, but remember, this country was a nation from the time they declared their independence and created the Articles of Confederation. So not all treaties, especially in the beginning, were made under the Constitution. They were made under the Articles, and they involved, in most cases, very large sums of money, and therefore they had to be honored, Constitution or no, and there were some drastic changes from the Articles to the Constitution. But the Constitution specifically words that laws made according to the Constitution and treaties made under the authority of the United States, which nowadays certainly does include the Constitution. So if you said all of the above, it was okay, or if you said the Constitution, it was okay. But if you just said treaties, that was not okay. Make sense? Yeah, okay.
So the way they were corrected, those of you who got a lot of the lower grades, there were about 6 or 7 campers who missed an entire page. So obviously we can't give credit when that happens. So, but that gives you opportunity to do better when you leave.
And to do better next time, and always be sure that you've answered everything you have in front of you.
We graded the test to 100. Mrs. Harper came out with a brilliant idea.
Oh, they heard that one already?
What's that?
They heard that about the name. I'm sorry. He was busy passing out tests when I was trying to entertain the troops with that. But anyway, thank you for the compliment. So any further questions? Did you save one to go through?
Yeah, we can go through this one here.
Yeah, okay. You want to do that?
Sure.
Yeah, just
Okay. Okay.
keep it moving.
Yep. Okay. So campers, let's read question number 1 together. Okay. How much time elapsed? Let's do it together. How much time elapsed between the announcement?
Come on, you guys, you got voice.
Oh, there we go. Okay. And what's the answer? 11 years. That's right, because the Declaration of Independence was declared in 1776, and then the Constitution was 1787, wasn't it? And you know, I personally like dates. I don't like to impose that on other people, though. However, there are certain dates that you do need to know, and those are 2 of them. Okay. Number 2, go ahead. 3.
3 of the following 4 delegates to the convention did not sign the finished document on Monday, September 17, 1987. It lacked the Bill of Rights. Which one of the following delegates did sign the Constitution?
And the answer? Governor Morris. And that was his name was Governor, okay? It comes from his mother's maiden name. His father married a lady who came from the Gouverneur family, and he got his mother's maiden name as his first name. So he was not a governor of Pennsylvania. He was from Pennsylvania, but his name was Governor. But Governor Morris is the one that arranged the Constitution. He's the one that put Article 1 in Article 1 and Article 2 in Article 2 and all the way down. That's Governor Morris.
And he wrote the preamble.
And he wrote the preamble. Okay, number 3. What was? And what's the answer? And what does question 2 give away? If you looked carefully, the answer is given away in the question above it. Okay, number 4. Who was?
America's ambassador to England during the Constitutional Convention time period.
And the answer? John Adams. John Adams. Okay. All right. Number 5. Between
July 10th and July 16th, over 60 ballots were cast in the convention to determine what issue.
And the answer?
How the president should be elected.
So the founding fathers spent a lot of time, didn't they, creating this electoral college system. It was very specific, detailed, and purposeful. And as Mrs. White pointed out, it's the states that elect the president. The states, okay? When the founding fathers thought of us, the citizens, voting, the main person they thought we'd be thinking about is who is our congressman. They didn't think, oh, the people are going to want to vote for president. No. Our congressman represents us. And they created the electoral system to come up with a president that would be very well balanced amongst the states. Okay, number, what are we on, 6 or 7?
6.
Okay, how much access
The public have to the proceedings of the Constitutional Convention.
and the answer? None.
I was going to say the story about Ben Franklin. You remember, some of you may remember, and a lot of times a story like this will actually help settle something in your mind. When the convention was over, and they had emphasized secrecy, they had pulled the shades, they had blocked people from coming into the building, it was totally secret, and they weren't even to discuss it among themselves in a public place, like after hours or something. So when they were coming out, and when Benjamin Franklin came out, a lady went up to him and addressed him and said, "What sort of government have you given us?" And he said, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." Yes, and that should be memorized, as obviously it was.
Let's all say it together. A
Republic,
madam, if you
you
can keep it.
Yeah.
Okay, so number, 8? 7, okay. The delegates to the U.S. Constitutional Convention believed. And the answer? Amend. They believed that they were meeting to amend or just adjust or change, but not abolish.
Should we go into who
Yeah.
thought contrary? The architect of the Constitution, or in a sense you could say architects in particular, James Madison is commonly called the father of the Constitution because he realized that if you didn't have uniform money and some of these things that the articles had or didn't have, that you couldn't hold together a union, a confederation of states. And so he was very much for this, and he didn't just accidentally land on that. Thomas Jefferson was in France at the time, and there were many more books available in Europe in general. That's where most of the publishers were, and most of the authors for that matter. Jefferson sent trunkloads of books to Madison, and they discussed them in letters and so on. And so those two men really had a huge influence on creating a direction for the Constitution to go. And at the convention is where they hammered out the details or discussed the philosophical background. And of course, what very famous, important 1776 document contains the philosophical background and the objections to other forms of government? What document?
Say it louder.
Exactly.
Mrs. Harper doesn't hear as well as she used to, so you gotta say it loudly.
Right, thank you.
Number 8, are we at?
Yeah, some of them, we only have a few minutes left, so probably,
What item do Americans go? Mrs. Harper already talked about this. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution, okay? Even though a lot of people don't know that. Okay, number 9, can Congress propose new amendments to the Constitution?
yes.
Yes.
According to what article?
Oh, who said that? 5. Throw that camper a fish. What? Number 10. Let's go quickly. What power? What power?
Was not. Answer? All of the above.
Okay.
So those were all deficits or deficiencies, although you might not think that of the power to tax.
It's one of the reasons why it took Washington 8.5 years to win the war. He couldn't feed the troops. He couldn't get money from the states. The Articles of Confederation had no power to tax the states to give money and resources to the general who was fighting the war. Okay, number, what are we, 11? Mm-hmm. 11. When?
And? Publius, yes.
Nice. Publius, good. Okay.
Oh,
Number 12, Thomas Jefferson.
Appointed ambassador to the French court in 1785, kept a young scholar statesman well supplied with appropriate books from European publishers before and during the Constitutional Convention.
And the answer? Mrs. Harper just mentioned that about 2 minutes ago, remember? Okay. Number 13, please. The electoral? And the answer?
just
B.
read them.
Right? The small states get equal representation in the U.S. Senate, and that gives them a slight advantage in computing electoral votes. Okay, number 14, who is commonly referred to as the father of the Constitution? Everybody say it. Number 15, which delegate to the convention took copious notes on everything that was said? These notes were kept in secret for 30 years, but then they were later published by an act of Congress in 1843. They constitute the most authoritative record available on the convention. Madison, good. Number 16, the Virginia Plan called for power to tax, to regulate money, conduct foreign affairs, and regulate commerce. Who was the architect of the Virginia Plan? Who was the architect? James Madison. Okay. Number 17, who made the following statement? while trying to persuade his colleagues from Virginia to oppose the proposed Constitution. As much as I value the union of all the states, I would not admit the southern states into the union unless they agreed to the discontinuance of this disgraceful slave trade. Who said that? It's Madison. Okay. Number 18. Who served as the chairman of the Committee of the Whole at the Constitutional Convention? The Committee of the Whole. Who was the chairman of that? Anybody know? D. Nathaniel Gorham. And he was selected by Washington. Well, let's go to the next one. We'll come back to it. What was the exact day, month, and year the Constitutional Convention convened? Convened, not signed. They met. They started meeting. May 25th, 1787. That's right. Okay. Who was unanimously elected president of the Constitutional Convention? George Washington. And then let's go back to number 18, because as soon as he was elected president, he turned over the gavel to a gentleman named Nathaniel Gorham, who was from Massachusetts, a northerner, and he turned the gavel over and he said, "Mr. Gorham, would you kindly like to run the meetings?" So when they met as a committee of a whole, Gorham held the chair. And that was strategic by Washington. Every time he was given a power or authority, the first thing he did was he turned it over to somebody else and just observed and made sure that it was carried out properly. Okay.
And that would have given him the right to participate in the debates, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because the chairman is not normally supposed to participate.
Right. Why don't we go to, because we did those 20, why don't we go to the Bill of Rights first and then come back, because we're going
Okay.
to run out of time.
Sure.
Okay, on page 4, matching, match the amendment from the Bill of Rights to its number. Okay, everybody will read number 1 simultaneously. Ready? Ready? Yes. Okay, number 1, excessive. Number 8. Number 8. Great. Okay. Number 2. In suits. Okay, so that's double jeopardy. If you've been acquitted, you can't be retried for the same crime. Okay? Number 3. What's that?
What?
What's the question? Number 2 was amendment number 7. Okay? So number 3 on the page, Congress shall.
Respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting free exercise, freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a free acts of state.
Okay, and you know, a lot of people will often say that the Constitution or that the Bill of Rights says separation of church and state. Did you see church in that sentence? No. Did you see separation? No. Did you say a wall of separation? Did you see the word wall? No. What it says is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
So a bunch of governors just violated that, right?
Right. Yep. Yep. And that amendment is what amendment?
1.
Thank
Yep.
you. Go ahead, Mrs. H.
The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And that is Amendment 9.
Good job. Good job.
Yes. There's a pair that go together, 9 and 10. So see if you'll recognize it when we get to it. The right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, papers, and
Let's have them
effects.
all read it. Everybody read it with Mrs. Harper. The right of
Person or things, yeah. It kind of fizzles out here.
The reason why we're going through this is because it's likely to be asked upon you when you leave at the end of the week. We want you to know this stuff. This is important. This is the Bill of Rights, campers. The Bill of Rights. Okay.
Okay,
That's the Fourth Amendment, right. Yeah.
so number 6 on the page,
All campers, the
powers not delegated states, Constitution, by to the states. Okay, and what number is that and what's it paired with? 10. Number 10, and it goes along with number 9. Okay, here's one you all know. Even the boys can read this one. A well. Okay, and that is number what? 2, those.
Second Amendment.
Second Amendment, right. Okay, no soldier shall in time of peace.
Have them. No soldier shall. So the government can't just put somebody in your house, can they? Right?
That's what it says.
Okay. All right. By the way, I was so glad to see so many of you got that right. I was very pleased about that. Okay, what's the next one, Mrs. H?
Next one at number 9.
It's the last one. Okay, in all.
Okay,
Well, it wasn't uniformly done, but we allowed you for your efforts. Okay, that is amendment number 6. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we're just about out of time, Mrs. A. Is this end at 7:15 or 7:20? 7:15. Okay.
all right, we're done.
Well, the next class will be the Moral American. It is the most important class that you experience here at Camp Constitution. Mrs. Harper and I thank you very much for your attention. We hope you have a fabulous week, learn lots about the Constitution, and Mr.